Hello, I'm Bill Demery, and today we're going to discuss the SLDS district and school level reports. Our participants' goals is to understand the SLDS district report structure, how it's laid out, how to find them, to understand the audit reports and how they can help you. We're going to look at the SLDS school report structure and then discuss exporting SLDS data. We would like this recording is made so you can work at your computer and go through the reports as we discuss them. So we'd first like you to log on to the SLDS system, https semicolon // slds.ndcloud.gov / and we should come up to the portal page and check with EduTech. Have your district superintendent or principal request usernames and logins for the SLDS system. Username is typically first name dot last name. Place your username last name in, and then we'll come up to the Welcome ND SLDS portal. The PK12 at the top of the screen. Click on PK12 and that will take us immediately to the reports page. The reports page is structured so our district reports are at the top, followed by the school reports and then the teacher reports, and then the information from the university system, post-secondary at the bottom. We're first off going to look at some of the district reports. We have assessment detail, assessment inventory, and then we have another detail only it focuses on a demographic breakdown, assessment summary, course code evaluation, which is one of our audit reports, district dropout rate, and we have our graduation rates and proficiency trend. On the bottom half of the district reports, we have the profile, school district, national ACT benchmarks, and then we have the district enrollment activity, district average daily enrollment, and the district roster. And then we have the 3 audit reports, student mismatch information, vertical reporting, and attendance classification. These audit reports will help you to assure you that your information going into PowerSchool is matching the STARS system. Also, we're making assurances that our codes for courses and attendance are matching the state requirements so that all the reports and the transcript reports will be working correctly for you and your students. The next set of reports is the school reports. At the top we have ACT, student detail, students ACT summary, Ames Web 2 reports, NDSA growth model, and the NDSA growth model roster, NWA teacher report, assessment summary, the school profile, student proficiency details, student or school teacher roster, and then the NDSA trend report. These are the reports we're going to look at. And so if we could just scroll up to the top of the page again, and the first report that we're going to go through collectively here is the district profile. And so if you could click on district profile, and then we should go to a selection of parameters. Select your parameters, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and click Run. And I'll give you a minute or a couple of seconds for this to get caught up on your screen. Okay, this is what the district profile page or dashboard looks in its entirety. Typically you can't see all of it on your screen unless you make your fonts and everything really, really small on your computer. At the top of the report, we see the enrollment summary. This enrollment information is basically live, It connects with your PowerSchool data on a nightly basis, and so it should reflect your enrollment to the prior day. Your attendance summary, that connects with your prior year's end of the year attendance information. Year-to-date absence, again, it works with your PowerSchool data on a nightly basis and should reflect what happened in your district the day before. And then the NDSA summary data, that will reflect the most recent NDSA summary, which currently is your 2012-13 school year. Each of these reports, you notice there's a little more over on the right-hand side. Those will dig down deeper and give you more information, not only on your school district, but it'll give you additional years and typically breaks down your information and demographic in your different subgroups. Down at the bottom where it says NDSA summary, we have the click here for more details, where again from the district level, the more details would be asking you to choose a school in which you wanted to look at. Let's go back to the reports page again, and by clicking the back button or the PK12. And so this time let's just start at the top of the district reports page, and where it says assessment details, let's click on that. And when we click on it, we'll come up to our parameters page. And so again, we have to select our parameters, our district, select a year. I'd recommend that you typically select the year in which you're interested in. You might want to run 2 or 3 years of information together, but sometimes it's difficult to see multiple years of information on one report. It kind of depends on what the report's looking like. Then you can select your assessments, and there might be assessment selections in which you do not have any data. But they are in the system for other schools. And your test instance will follow if there is an option to choose. You may change it. For instance, like NWA map data, we could have our fall data, our winter data, or our spring data. And then our proficiency levels. And those proficiency levels will often also reflect our assessment. That will reflect what kind of information we're getting from our assessment. So once you've made all of these the parameter selections, go down to the bottom and select Run. And after a minute or a second or two, we should have our assessment details. The SLDS system is tending to run a little bit faster all the time. This is how this is laid out. We have our state assessments, language, math, reading, science. And then over on the left-hand side, we have our different subgroups. And so an individual student can be counted in more than one subgroup. They could be a female who has an IEP, which would they'd be counted twice here. And then they could be, and every student is any ethnic group. And so that would be the third one. And then they could also be a free and reduced, so they could be 4 times. And so some students could be counted 3 or 4 times, or depending on, or maybe in all of the different subgroups. The numbers are reflected of your different subgroups, and we in North Dakota have to be kind of cautious about these numbers because some of these numbers are often smaller than our magic number of 10 when we're talking about subgroups. And so we have to be cautious on some of these reports whether we could display these at a public forum, like a school board meeting, because those are public records. And so if we're letting people know that we have 4 females that are novice in math, that could be information that is violating our FERPA rules. Let's go back to the reports page again, and up at the second one down. We're going to look at assessment inventory this time. And so let's run the assessment inventory. And this report should reflect all of the reports and assessments that you have in your district. That is also in the SLDS system. If there is an assessment that your district is engaged in and is not reflected on this report, that would mean that perhaps the vendor does not have authorization to share the assessment data with the state, and you need to get the proper paperwork taken care of. Go to the SLDS reports or page in the DPI site, and there's authorization documents which you could fill out and send in to Steve Snow at the DPI, which will give the assessment vendors authority to share the data with the state. Notice on ACT, I opened up that little square or with a plus sign in it, which meant there was more detail. And we're looking at Robin High School. There's 11th grade, there's 65 students that took the test, ACT. 12th grade, there was 24 students, and in 15th grade, there was one student. Sometimes schools put in grades other than 11, 12 because if they get student data, they're not certain how to categorize it. And this allows us to look at not only the assessments we have in our system, but also the assessments by grade level. Let's this time go back up to the reports page. And now go down to the district assessment details page, which is, and then a demographic breakdown. Let's choose the district, our year, our state assessment, and we're going to just choose reading and run the parameters. And here's an example of the assessment details report. We have reading, we have our different proficiency levels, and then we could also then look at the individual demographic data below by moving to the additional pages that are provided. This is the same district summary details demographic breakdown, only this time we ran it by multiple years. And so we have multiple years of data for each of these grade levels. When I click on an individual grade, open it up, then we get the individual years. So we have our 11th grade here. We see how they're performing in grade year 12, 11, 10, 9, and 8. And so this is a type of report that could give you some trend data for your looking over your data and seeing if we're making progress. We can also export this information or look at the information by going over to the document map and looking at by grade level, by ethnicity, by gender, free and reduced, IEP, or by LAP subgroups. When we export this information, if we export it in Excel or Word, we'll get all this information by all the different subgroups, all in one export. Let's go back to the reports page and look up and now look at the assessment summary. Assessment summary again gives us some different options. We can typically get summaries from all the assessments that are in our district. You may choose multiple years, so you run the report once. You only see 1 year of data at a time on the screen, and you'll have to click between the pages or export it. Then you'll be able to have all the data you can look at. You can look at the different assessments, North Dakota State Assessment, MAP, Access, and so on. And then we can choose to look at all the different assessments, or if we just want to focus in on one assessment or two assessments at a time. When we look at this information, we will have our color coding. Blue is advanced, green proficient, yellow is partial, and red novice. And we're going to take a look at another example by simply moving the test over here, NDSA assessment, and changing it to access. We can then see our district's access data in that same reports venue. And so again, I can export this information and look at this information and have it exported to put in other presentations. And so from the one report page, district summary data, we could look at our access, our ACT, our plan, our Ames Web state assessment, or NWA. Typically, this is the same format the summaries we'll look at for all of these reports. Here is NWA, district assessment summary. And as usual, when you hover your cursor over a color, you'll get additional information. Like over here, we see in grade 9, or excuse me, in grade 10, 25 students out of 47 students, or 53% of the students, were above grade level. And in the map system, we have several different ways in which we can look at our data, and currently this is called the national proficiency. Here is again the district assessment summary, looking at the ACT, college ready, and those that are not college ready. And we have it for the different subjects in which ACT looks at, 5 subjects. And at the end of the session, you might want to come back to this section and explore and see what the different reports looks like for your district as you go through it. Let's go back up to the top of the reports page again. And this time, let's look at the district dropout rate. Now, this dropout rate currently would be up to the 2012. The 2013 dropout rate I do not believe has been calculated yet, and once it is, it'll be reflected, and we can compare our dropout rate with our district, which is the blue, to what the North Dakota dropout rate, which is the gold color. We're talking about high school dropout rate. Let's go back to the reports page, and this time let's select the district graduation rate. And now we have a bar graph reflecting our graduation rate. We're going to be looking at and asking the SLDS system to make both of these reports into a bar chart. And here we have the district, state, and national ACT benchmark report. And so we can compare, which we like to do, is compare ourselves with others. So we have our school, which is the blue. Then we can look at the district. So if we are a district with 2 or 3 high schools, or maybe 2 high schools, we can compare the different ones ourselves from the district. And then the red is the state. And then we can compare ourselves with the national. And so you can see by this comparison, North Dakota is not doing quite as well as the national when we look at language area. And in the mathematics, this particular district is doing much better than the state and the national. And we see again, when we look at all 4 subjects, our state is down a little bit from the national level. When we look at students that have 4 or more. Down at the bottom, we have data that tells the actual numbers of kids and percentages for school, district, and national. Let's go back up to the reports page again. And this time let's look at North Dakota District first time enrolled counts. This is to help districts to kind of see how many students, or particularly new students, are coming and going from a district. And so this counts first time enrollers. In other words, only kids that are coming to your district that have never been enrolled in your school this year. They might have been enrolled prior years, but we're counting the ones only that came new this year or that have left for the very first time. And this report, coupled with the next report, which would be the district average daily enrollment by month, helps us to get a handle and a picture of what a school district's enrollment is looking like. And both of these reports reflect Power School activity from the prior day. And so in this particular report here, we see at the top it says 577. That's what it would mean for the enrollment in this district on the day before that this report was run. And this report allows you to choose different years. You might have to experiment a little bit on seeing how far back you can go on the years. Sometimes there might be some data errors because your district was not in the Power School system enough years to get a good looking report. But experiment with the selection of the different years and running a report. Let's go back up to the top and to the district reports. And this time let's look at the district school roster. This is the example of the district school roster, which allows people at the district level to choose schools in which they want to look at their teachers. And so if I chose the Robin School at the top, elementary, I would immediately go to the Robin School teacher roster, and I could then select an individual school. Typically, numbers that are in red would mean that those are danger areas. Robin School says an attendance column, 2.9% was absent in the last 4 weeks. In other words, and there was 18 students that made up that. In these other columns, the E stands for late enrollers, students that enrolled after the first day of school. L is for limited English proficient students. M is for migrant, and D is for students with disabilities, anybody with an IEP. And for attendance, by looking at this column, I can see that the elementary at 2.9 has our best attendance. Our high school, 4.6. In other words, there's 4.6 students that had absences in the last 4 weeks, or 33 students. Then we have the grade column. We have number of grades below C, and apparently there are no students below C at the high school, and there's 2% of the elementary students, or 24 students, are below C. Grades failing or going down, 10%. And so we see this will indicate if students are going down. They might be at an A plus a couple weeks ago, but they might be now at a B. And so that would be going down. And so that would they'd be indicated here that they're starting to slide. And then we can choose on this particular district roster, we can either look at state assessments or NWA or ACT or any of the others. And then there'll be a graph of that information following these first couple columns. And again, helping us look at collectively on a whole school how things are going. Now, this is what it looks like after I click on a school. We selected Robin Elementary, and we see a list of all Robin's teachers and each teacher's enrollment number. And we see that other information, late enrollees, who has the disabilities. We have the attendance column, so again we can select the classroom or teacher who appears to have the greatest or the greatest number of students that are missing school, who has the best attendance, and then we can come over and look at also the grade columns, grades below C or grades that are falling or failing. Okay, this concludes our district reports, and so let's go back up the reports page again. And this time, let's look at the school reports. And the first one is ACT student detail at the top of the school list. This is student details, and so we have student names on this report as you see students. We have students that have their language, math, reading, or science. And so I can look at my school and see what percent of students are college ready or not college ready by the graphs at the top. The graph at the right-hand side indicates how many students are proficient in the number of subjects. For the first bar, we have 1, and we have 20.37 students that are proficient in only one subject. And if we look down at our students, we notice our second student down has a green bar only in reading, so they would be one of those 20.37 students. Then we have the second bar, which we have 11.11, means there's students only proficient in 2 subjects, and this time we can look at the fourth student down, and we notice that student has only 2 bars, math and reading, in which they are proficient in. The 3 is students that are proficient in 3 subjects, and 4 is students that are college ready in all 4. And like I say, we have the student detail number. And then we have in red, 17 out of 54 students did not pass any subject areas. And so this indicates the number of students that passed, and it indicates that 17 out of 54 students did not pass any of the subject areas. Let's look at the ACT summary this time. This is a report that since it does not reflect any student names, and if our subgroup numbers are above 10, we should be okay to publicize it, use it in a public forum. And so here we have our school ACT information, and again, it's similar to the district. We're looking at those that are college ready and those that aren't, and then we can look at those who have 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4 subjects in which they're college ready in. And this one says 5 out of 35 students did not pass any subject areas. Down at the bottom, we see the numbers. 35 students were tested. We see what the language score was, average math, average reading, and average science. And then notice up here at the left-hand side indicates we could have actions. We could look at any of this information by the subgroups, or under actions we could export it and use this information in another venue. This is our our trending report for the NDSA. Depending how you run it, if you select your parameters so that you have all your grades and you select as many years as possible, you'll end up looking at your trend data for NDSA in your district. And so we can look at trends in a couple of ways in this NDSA trend report. We can go from 3rd grade in the 08-09 to the 9-10 to the 11-12 to and see how they're performing over a span of years, only 3rd grade. We can also look at our cohort group of students as they progress when they go from 3rd grade to 4th grade to 5th grade to 6th grade, and that would be color coded as they go down. Okay, the colors as they go down is typically the same grade of kids or sets of kids. If we look at 08-09, we see our 8th graders are in orange, and that's the 8th grade year there. The following year, they would have been 9th graders, and they would not take a test. In 10, 11, they would have been 10th graders who would not have taken a test. But now they're 11, 12, and now they're 11th graders, and so this is their 11th grade test. And so the trend information for 8th graders would indicate that 87.3 was proficient in 08, 09 as 8th graders, and now that those students are 11th graders, they've dropped the number of proficiency to 84.3. This is the NDSA trend report. Next report down on the reports list is our NWA teachers report. And this report is somewhat similar to the teacher report that's currently in NWA's website, except there is some new information and that currently was not available in standard reports. One of the pieces of information is the percent correct, which helps us understand if the student is, let's say, between 45 and 55%, that would mean that the test is probably looking like a good test. And then we have the test duration that helps us understand how long it took the student to take the test. This information sometimes, when you're looking at NWA data, if it's not matching other reports, or if there's all of a sudden looks extreme change, looking at the percent correct and test duration is a piece of information that can help you understand the validity of the report. Let's continue down the reports list under schools, and let's look at the Ames web distribution. And so Meadowlark School, they're looking at 11-12, they're reading, and select your parameters, and then run. And this would be what the Ames web report would be for class distribution. We see our top tier and our middle tier, and then a tier in which we need to have some interventions for. And then we also have our Ames Web subject comparison, where we take individual students and then we look at their different areas in which we are assessing with them. The maze, naming word fluencies, and so on. Let's go back to our reports page. And this time, let's look at the NDSA growth model roster. And this provides one page of information for each of your grade level, and it gives you information about the proficiency levels, the students, and it will also tell you the past history. This current report has fall of 9, fall of 10. In just a week or so, we'll have the updated class, the growth model rosters inputted into the system, and we'll have the 11 and 12. So there should be 4 columns of data helping you look at the trend of students over time. And then if we go and look at the NDSA growth model report now, that again gives us a nice visual of how students perform over time, and it also, for students that are not performing at proficiency, gives them the target that they need to have 3 years down the road to become proficient. And then down at the bottom of each of these pages, again, it tells you the information about the student over a period of time and which schools they attended. Let's go back up to that assessment summary page again. And this time, let's look at the school assessment summary, and we're going to select the NDSA. And as usual, when you hover your mouse over a color, you'll find more detail. 12 of 19 students, or 63%, were proficient. Whenever we see these click for more details, we can go down and actually find the names of the kids that were in these different color areas. By changing our parameters in school assessment summary to NWEA, we can then now run our report for the NWEA, and I only have the grades in which my school If I would have run the same report at the district level, I would have all the grades that my district is taking. This is only the grades for my school here. And notice we have the um, proficiency um, levels of the different students. And let's now go down to the school profile. And the school profile, like I said earlier, was kind of a mini district profile. It has your enrollment data, your, your year-to-date absent, and your attendance summary, followed by your most current state assessment information. And again, if we click here for more details on any of these, we'll go down and find out more information and getting lists of kids that match and make up these colors. Now let's go back to the reports detail page again, and now select teacher roster page. And so this will be our elementary school teacher roster page, listing all the teachers that are in my elementary school. We see the number of students that enrolled in each class. The teachers with the large enrollment numbers typically would be your music or Phy Ed teachers. We see an E for late enrollment, anybody that came after the first day. L is limited English proficient, migrant, or disabled. And this follows the same outline as the district page that we looked at earlier, looking at absences, grades going below C, or grades going down. And so we can come in here and find out those students that are most at risk, finding them quickly because of the coding helping jump out at us. Let's go back to the reports page, and now we're down towards the bottom where it says in this student proficiency details. And so as we select those proficiency details, the school, the year, what assessment we want to pick, because we have a number of assessments, then we can pick the subjects if we want to look at all of them or just look at one or two. We can look at grade levels. Then we can pick the proficiency evaluation, and since I picked the state assessment, I'm going to look at the state standards, which would be the novice, partial, proficient, and advanced. If we wanted to here, we could look at different subgroups only, or look at genders. And from this report here, if I want to look, I can find only or certain individual subgroups of students. Once I run this report, if I want to look at all of my students, we end up with a list like this. And from this list, we see the names of the kids. And we can see what their demographic group is, what they fall in. And then notice here that the names of the students are in blue and they're underlined, which means once I choose, I can click on this and then I'll go to that student's dashboard and be able to look at all the information on that particular students. And so from when I'm selecting my student proficiency details, I want to know, let's say I just want to know all the boys in 4th grade who are not proficient. This would be a way of giving me that list of kids and then looking down deeper and seeing who they are and different information about the individual students. This concludes today's session on SLDS school and district reports. As you see, there's a number of reports. There's a lot of information. The SLDS system is running faster and faster every day and getting to be more and more data in there every day. Look for information for this fall 2013 training. We are making a schedule, and that information will be coming out this summer and in this August date. So look for those dates. Feel free to contacting myself, Bill Demery, if you have any questions about the SLDS system or the information in this training. With that, adios and have a good day.